WWE dropping their Solo Sikoa push? I love you, Solo Sikoa! A wrestler's TNA contract runs out and is likely going to WWE. I guess TNA is WWE's new developmental system in their new relationship. Another wrestler quits TNA and is also likely going to WWE. Again, it's probably just a kayfabe way to get them over to WWE, corporate partnerships and all that. And another wrestler leaves TNA, but smashes up the TNA title they still had on an indie show and tried to cut a shoot promo on how bad TNA is. There we are! That's my TNA! I know you've still got a carny heart and I love you for it! I'm Ollie Davis and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Sunday the 19th of January saw TNA's first premium live event of the year, Genesis. And it really was a case of new year, new me. As several days before, after working together for most of 2024, TNA and WWE had officially announced they had entered a multi-year partnership, which will mostly involve sharing talent across TNA, NXT, and sometimes even main roster WWE PLEs. First, a historical warning. No wrestling promotion has ever entered a working relationship with WWE and come out better off it. ECW, Evolve, Progress, WWE often end up taking all the smaller promotions' best talent and then ditch them for the next hot company. This is a new era of WWE though, under Paul Levesque's leadership instead of the far more difficult to play with Vince McMahon. And even if WWE went back to their absolute worst, good luck trying to kill TNA, that place will never die. The relationship has started very well, with PW Insider reporting there was a strong spike in ticket sales for the Genesis show off the back of the official TNA WWE relationship announcement. John Cena even promoted his new corporate partnership with a post on his super weird Instagram account, and Triple H shared, "Huge night ahead for our friends TNA. Excited to watch TNA Genesis tonight, live on pay-per-view." Despite having no WWE or NXT wrestlers announced for the show, the expectation was that something would happen, and TNA didn't disappoint, with NXT's Ashante V Adonis first appearing to issue an open challenge on the pre-show. Jake something answered and beat him. Next was a very exciting tease when the NXT Tag Team Champions and arguably the best tag team of 2024, Fraxium's Nathan Frazier and Axiom, took seats on the entrance ramp to watch the TNA Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys, defend against the Rascals. Trey Miguel accidentally had a suicide dive onto Fraxium and they had to be escorted to the back, but this is very likely setting up a Fraxium versus Hardy's TNA versus NXT Tag Team Champion match, with Matt posting a photo of the two teams on Twitter. Afterwards, it was announced Fraxium will defend their NXT tag titles against the Rascals on this Thursday's Impact. And former NXT Women's Champion Cora Jade also turned up to confront TNA Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich, continuing their program from NXT. So with all those NXT contracted wrestlers appearing in TNA, it's only fair that some TNA contracted wrestlers would ditch their TNA contracts to fully sign with WWE. Also on the show was former TNA World Champion Josh Alexander, taking on former AEW wrestler Mike Santana in an I Quit match. Alexander lost and took it literally, announcing afterwards that he's quitting TNA. Alexander himself had previously told Chris Van Vliet that his contract would be expiring on the 15th of February. If that's still the case, he wouldn't be available for a surprise Men's Royal Rumble spot, unless TNA greenlight that with their working relationship with WWE. It's far more likely he'll end up in NXT, where his former North tag team partner Ethan Page currently is. For ex-TNA wrestlers appearing in a Rumble, the women's match is far more likely, because after then Knockouts champion Jordan Grace was the surprise fifth entrant last year, Grace has reportedly finished up with TNA after losing to Tessa Blanchard at Genesis. Fightful Select is reporting WWE were the heavy favourites to sign her, as she also frequently appeared on NXT throughout 2024. And now PW Insider is reporting Genesis was Grace's last TNA date, and she is now WWE bound. Well, you'd guess she'll debut, again kinda, in the Women's Rumble on February 1st. But while TNA have lost two of their biggest stars of the 2020s, they used their extra eyes on Genesis to finally get behind the one they've kept hold of. Because I believe in Joe Hendry! Oh God, I said his name. I used to hear childhood tales of a bleached smiling man that would appear whenever you said his name, and I've said it. What have I done? I think I've got away with it. That guy with the bleached hair and smile became one of the hottest wrestlers of the summer last year when his theme tune went viral on social media and reached number 4 on the UK official Big Top 40 chart in May. So, TNA being TNA, they put their top belt on a former WWE guy, Nick Nemeth, at Slammiversary. But then, at their biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory in October, he was beaten by that same former WWE guy because of interference from another, much older WWE guy, JBL. But now, in the Genesis main event, he beat Nemeth to finally become the TNA World Champion. Oh my God, there he is! I'm happy for TNA. Luke and I used to be TNA diehards back in the noughties. I just, with the WWE partnership and the NXT crossovers, I just hope TNA doesn't lose what made TNA, well, TNA. Oh, thank you. What's this? TNA's digital championship was on a wrestler that was out of contract, and that wrestler then destroyed the belt with a sledgehammer and cut a shoot promo on TNA. There's my TNA I love, you beautiful piece of carny wrestling! Because at the very same time TNA was running their Genesis PLE in Texas, hopefully starting a new, more respectable era, the indie promotion GCW was running their own show, The People vs. GCW, in New York. GCW is the modern-day hardcore spiritual successor to ECW and CZW, and on their Sunday, the 19th of January pay-per-view, they had TNA's digital media champion, PCO, win their kickoff rumble. But when PCO was interviewed in the ring, he instead put his TNA belt on a chair and proceeded to smash it with a sledgehammer. He then grabbed the mic and said, "I've sold out the biggest house in TNA history. I sold more t-shirts in one night than any TNA." And then the broadcast cut him off to a GCW logo. PW Insider is reporting that PCO's TNA contract had actually expired at the end of last year, and that he's done with the company, while still being their current digital media champion. They also claim his rant and destruction of a TNA title was legitimate. Fightful then corroborated this story, writing their sources in GCW said PCO went into business for himself. Apparently, it suggested backstage that he was involved in a storyline planned for the next set of TNA tapings. But GCW officials realized this wasn't the case. TNA were also shocked by what PCO did and said he was supposed to wrap up his run, which would presumably include dropping that title at the tapings later this week. He is now, unsurprisingly, not expected to return to TNA. Over in WWE, Friday's SmackDown saw Solo Sikoa make his first appearance on TV since losing Tribal Combat to Roman Reigns on the Netflix debut Raw. He came out with his New Blood buddies, but was booed so much by the crowd, he just dropped the mic and walked out the arena instead, leaving Jacob Fatu, who has mostly been limited to just screaming, "I love you, Solo Sikoa!" to cut a really good promo. WrestleVotes have reported that there were differing opinions over whether this was the right move backstage. That Solo Sikoa segment was a hot topic of debate within creative today. The original rundown this morning had Solo opening the show to address his loss to Roman. SmackDown instead opened with Rey Mysterio announcing his entry into the Royal Rumble, which led to a confrontation with Kevin Owens. With the show's main event already booked as Tiffany Stratton's first women's title defense against Bayley, it meant Solo's segment took place 45 minutes into the show. Hardly a prestige placement, and only ran for 7 minutes. For the last several years, Bloodline segments have mostly either opened or closed episodes of SmackDown. At the very least, they're at the top of the first hour. But perhaps, with Solo's feud with Roman Reigns over the Ula Fala now complete, WWE are pushing New Blood down the card a bit. And they might even be pivoting their focus from Solo as the faction's next big star to Jacob Fatu. Back in May, about 6 weeks before Fatu made his main roster debut, WrestleVotes have reported some trepidation remains within creative over fear that Fatu's presence could outshine Solo at this stage. That has arguably come to pass. Fatu has been booked stronger and stronger, while Solo almost became more of an ineffectual leader comedy character. Do you think now Sikoa's feud with Roman is over, WWE will start pushing Fatu more heavily? Let me know in the comments down below. Perhaps this will all end in a Solo versus Fatu match at Mania. That's certainly what Luke Owen is trying to fantasy book in our Predicting WrestleMania 41 Way Too Far in Advance Again video, which you can watch right now. Here's a clip. Shall we go with probably the easiest thing to book?
Yeah.
Which is Night 2 main event.
John Cena, Cody Rhodes, WWE Championship.
So you're going to have John Cena win the Royal Rumble, and he goes, "I want Cody."
Yeah.
I'll put it on the paper. That's Cody Rhodes, and then John Cena is down here. I can see you.
He's the brightest colour person on the screen. There you go.